Joined by Robin Black. It's the lightweight division. They've been the naughty boys. Donald Cerrone, Rafael dos Anjos, the champion, and Nathan Diaz all getting fined because of this whole Reebok deal. It seems that a lot of people are ticked off. The fighters, most specifically, I think them and the trainers. Do you anticipate the UFC will try to rectify this situation, or do they even care? Because right now, it seems that the UFC is sending a message that they don't care, that they're going to continue to do the things that benefit them, which could leave a bad taste in the fighter's mouth. And when you see an organization like Bellator kind of waiting in the wings to take any of the rejects, so to speak, from the UFC, it seems like this would be a no-brainer for Bellator. Wait for the UFC to piss off their fighters. When it's time to renegotiate, they're going to jump ship.
It's interesting when you look at it that way. I know you've read The Art of War. And you can use the art of war in just about everything. Don't use it with your wife. That's not fair. But in business, it's a valuable tool. But with business, it really works. Think of corporations as warring, entities. And those warring entities make moves based on what is going to win. Now, the UFC is the big, powerful warring entity. And it has traditionally always gone and said, we'll just get our stormtroopers. They're the Death Star. We'll get our stormtroopers to fall in line. And we'll do it however we have to do. And once we do, we can move forward. The smaller one, yeah, they can hope that doesn't work. They can try to make plays to try to pull that out. But the Death Star of the UFC has traditionally said, look, stormtroopers, if you don't fall in line, we'll discipline a couple of you, and then the rest of you will. And if you don't, the great thing is there's 1,000 good fighters on the grassroots that if a couple of guys don't like it, they'll come up. I'm not making judgment one way or the other. I'm just giving you the analysis. Death Star, stormtroopers.
But at the same time, we've heard that the UFC, year after year, they're losing stars. The Chuck Liddells, the Randy Couture's, the Tito Ortiz's. They were replaced by the Ronda Rouseys of the world and the Conor McGregors. But you see Ronda Rousey lose. So is there somebody to take her place? Is Holly Holm, is she going to be the star that Ronda Rousey was during her heyday? Or is the UFC, do they have to hold on to the fighters like Donald Cerrone, who is not a champion, but people want to tune in to Donald Cerrone? This guy makes the move to one championship. I know Cage Warriors doesn't exist. KSW or Bellator. People see that on their guide, Donald Cerrone fighting Michael Chandler. People are going to watch.
We were talking about Conor McGregor and the fact that a lot of the choices he's going to make are dictated by the fact that he has leverage. He has big leverage. And I don't know if anyone noticed, he wears green shorts. He doesn't wear the two-color shorts. He wears the green shorts because that's what leverage gets you. Do some of these other people have leverage? One of the main reasons that Donald Cerrone may not have as much leverage as we think he should have. He's a cowboy. He's got a cowboy hat. He drinks Budweiser. He's a great fighter. He's exciting. We think this guy should have leverage is because if he says, I'm going to wear some other thing, find me if you want, and he ends up being the stormtrooper that they have to go and discipline, you got this smiley face stormtrooper. I'll do whatever Mr. White says. What's that kid's name? Sage Van Zandt?
Yeah.
That kid will do whatever they say. And there's more of them coming up. Stars are suddenly becoming easier to make because every 17-year-old has studied how to be a star, how to do interviews, how to have cool haircuts. And Mr. White, like there's so many of them coming up that you don't have to bow to the fighters. Again, this is not a good or a bad thing. I'm not presenting this to you with judgment one way or the other. I'm giving you strict analysis on how Star Wars works.
But you talk about Sage Northcutt, for example. We're seeing his star on the rise. But all it takes is for him to get kicked in the head like Ronda Rousey, and it's like, okay, we don't have a star anymore because people have seen him lose. They've seen him lose in dramatic fashion. A guy like Cerrone has been around. He's battle-tested. It doesn't matter how many times he wins or loses. It's like, how many times has Donald Cerrone lost over his last 4 or 5 fights? I don't know. Can the casual fan tell you that? It doesn't matter. Everybody tunes into Cerrone, not for wins and losses, but for the fact that he comes to throw down every time. It's like Nathan Diaz. It's like Nick Diaz. These guys kind of transcend the sport despite the fact that they're not on the top of the mountain.
If you're asking me to take off my goofy leopard print pink analyst hat and just give you my opinion, yeah, man, I would rather see Donald Cerrone than 100 Sage Van Zandts. You know, I would, but I'm old school that way. I believe that there is specialness in some of these fighters, and that should give them the leverage. If a couple of Donald Cerrone types sit down and go, Dana, come on, man, help us out with this uniform thing, that they'd listen. But it's the Death Star, man. You don't tell Darth Vader what to do.
Of course, we're talking about the 155-pound division. You'll get to see it in the co-main event coming up on Sunday as Anthony Pettis takes on Eddie Alvarez. That is the co-feature. It's headlined by Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw for the 135-pound championship. Tune in to FN's preview show as we get you set for all the action going down in Boston. It happens at 6 p.m. Eastern.